Chase by Dallas, make it hurt.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Let's Talk Commercial Real Estate Investing, the Black Community Edition. I am your humble host, Dominic Green, Managing Partner of Atentico Commercial Real Estate Services here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, hey, hope everyone's doing well. Like I said, we are in the final weeks of 2021. Everybody should be hopefully reached their goals and preparing for 2022. And as always, this platform, we come here to discuss all things commercial real estate investing, because our goal as a collective is to acquire income producing commercial real estate, whether that's multifamily, retail, office, industrial, you name it, right? Ground leases, net lease deals, all the good stuff. So today I wanted to basically just come briefly. As always, I like to talk about things that I'm seeing, stuff that's coming across my desk, and things that I just noticed from reading articles and listening to webinars and all that stuff. Because I do commercial real estate for a living, right? Full time, and then I'm also pursuing my putting together a team to attack affordable housing, especially here in Texas, from a long-term investment standpoint, and then progress forward to other opportunities as well. But nonetheless, student housing, man. On a couple of stuff that I've been getting coming towards my way, and seeing and just hearing from some of these syndicators, man, a lot of them seem like they're pivoting. We talked about student housing before, kind of how what the publicly traded companies were doing, how they were faring, how student housing was faring. A lot of the large universities, your top university, tier 1 universities, student housing properties still did fairly well. And so now you're starting to see a pickup in that. So if you start, following some of the news, some of the headlines, you start seeing some of these big REITs, some of these big private equity guys, and even some of these local syndication people are kind of going after student housing. So with that being said, I just want to kind of point out a couple of things for those who may be interested in pursuing this, especially because when I first, when I went to the University of Texas, I actually worked at a student housing complex as a leasing consultant. Got a little insights in management and all kinds of stuff. Stuff you probably read in the paper because somebody got stabbed at our community. But nonetheless, proximity. Proximity is going to be a key. So if you're looking at something that's coming on the market, or you're driving by and you see something that may be a potential opportunity, I would always check and see, well, first of all, what university you're at. Tier 1s are typically the ones that have the larger enrollments, have the larger following, legacy, your UTs, your A&M and stuff like that. Your Michigans, your Columbus, your Ohio's, your Floridas, universities like that, USC, right? How close is it to the campus? If it's not close to the campus, is it on a bus route? Those, two very important things. Also, the type of amenities that are available, Wi-Fi. Because one thing about these student properties, they're going to have they're going to be highly amenitized in most cases. If it's an older stock, like, UT West campus, it's going to be like your traditional multifamily property, very minimal amenities, if any, because it's really, you're renting by the bed and we're just trying to provide an affordable place to stay and a place to park, right? But for on the higher end, they're going to be, highly amenitized pools, Wi-Fi, studies, all kinds of programming that's going on for the community, you name it, secure gates, all that stuff, right? So those are going to be important depending on the demographic that you're targeting in that student population. Because there are those that have money and those that don't have money. Then you got your international students as well, which can be a segment. Enrollment. You definitely want to know how the enrollment has been going at the university. What's it been trending? Typically, these guys are looking for enrollments of over 200,000. I mean, not over 20,000 students, freshman students coming in, if not more, because it's typically, well, with some of these universities, what you got to pay attention to is what are the housing requirements. So some universities require if you're a freshman, you got to stay on campus, and then some of them don't. And even with that being said, if they have a huge enrollment of freshmen coming in every year, there's only a limited amount of on-campus housing for a lot of these universities. So thus, housing that's nearby, that's closer, that's on the route, becomes an option. And then, gradually, if you've been to college, once you kind of get past your freshman, your sophomore year, you kind of will move off campus anyway, and just experience the different things, and affordability as well, in some cases. So you want to definitely check, the housing stock of the university. Some of these guys have been doing partnerships with these universities to provide additional housing because they just don't have enough, and that's not the best use of their resources in most cases. They're interested in building more labs and buildings for the university for study. Definitely check the housing, not the housing, but check the construction pipeline. How many more, the supply demand game, right? So the more supply is, that puts pressure on rents. The less supply is in the higher demand, allows you to raise rents. Remember, you're also renting by the bed in most cases. Not necessarily you renting the whole entire unit, unless it's a 1-1. Most of the time, it's going to be per bed. Share a common area. Each individual, well, if it's a newer property and it's specifically built for student housing, in the cases they're going to have each individual bedroom has its own particular bathroom, and then common areas are shared. If it's not, if it's kind of like a traditional multifamily product, then you probably have a 2-2 or a 3-2. Or a 1-1 or a studio or something like that, where things are being shared, or 2-1 in some cases, right? Where things are being shared beyond the common area. Know that the operating of these properties are going to be more specialized, so you got to have a specialized property manager or someone that focuses on it, because in student housing, it's more about the semesters of leasing, right? So fall is the biggest time to lease and to get the longest commitment. So if you don't lease up in the fall, by fall start of school, there's not really anybody else that's going to be coming later on in huge droves to come and fill up your space. So if you don't get it then, you probably be in trouble. So then you see some of these complexes that have allocation for student housing, will they accept students, but they'll really start focusing on just traditional people that live and work in that area, to kind of compensate, especially if they miss that. But if you're going to be specifically student housing, you got to be on your P's and Q's, or you got to have a property management that's on their P's and Q's, because these properties do have a higher, a higher, not necessarily capital intensive, but they have a higher need for management, because you're obviously dealing with students, right? You're dealing with people who for the first time are on their own. Then, all kinds of stuff can happen at some of these properties. And then obviously, looking at the leases and stuff like that, getting the guarantees from the parents, that's important. And then looking at their funding, especially, when they're getting funding for school, what's left over available for housing. So all that plays into factor, but that's more in the management, but that's going to be definitely very, very important. If anything else that we talk about here, you remember about this, property management is hugely, hugely important in student housing. It's property management makes or breaks a lot of stuff, but definitely I would say, just from my experience, student housing is one. And then again, like I said, the attraction is mainly from what you're seeing, and if you guys are following, for those who are getting into multifamily or already in it, that cap rates and everybody's going after it, right? Cap rates have compressed. Depending on where you're located, they can be in the low 3s to the mid 4s. And then in cases of student housing right now, what we're seeing and what I'm hearing and looking at, they're anywhere between the mid 4s to the mid 5s in the cap rate returns, right? And again, for those who don't understand what a cap rate is, it's just basically, if you pay it all cash, this is your particular return on your investment that you're getting. And it's just the way that we in the industry used to evaluate what the property is worth. Not necessarily how much you're gonna pay for it, but definitely what the property is potentially worth. So it was just a couple of key things. Didn't want to take up a lot of time today. This is something that I'm seeing. Definitely next week we're going to talk about senior housing, because I have been following up on that, and that's been gaining a little bit more momentum, even more so now. As people, again, everybody's chasing yield. So if they're trying to find opportunities to put this money to work and get a better return, because like I said, there's so much competition for industrial, so much competition for just traditional multifamily in a lot of these markets, that is really hard to pencil. It's really hard to make a decent return. So if you don't have a couple of competitive advantages, low cost of capital, relationships, a certain strategy, a certain hold period, longer term holds, that type of stuff, it could be very difficult for your first time, or just trying to get into it. So as I even got a call the other day, somebody wants to do multifamily investing from out of California. So what we could say is, it's highly competitive. So kind of find your segment if you're looking to get into it. Like I said, affordable housing is one of those things for me. It's a little bit more restrictions. There's definitely competition in it, but it's one of those things that is definitely harder. So if it's harder, it means it's not going to have as much competition. But people are competing in that, and it takes a lot to do it. So that's kind of one of the things I looked at to try to have some type of competitive advantage in a different niche outside of what everybody else is pitching and talking about. So, with all that being said, thanks for guys tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let's definitely keep the conversation going. If I can be of any help, definitely let me know. For those of you who have experience in commercial real estate investing or just commercial real estate in general, definitely share in the comments below your expertise. Because like I said, we're all here to work together for the common goal. And again, like I said, we're trying to acquire, we're trying to build wealth, we're trying to provide, get cash flow, provide for, and pay for the things that are most important to us, and support the people that are important to us as well, and along with other ventures that we want to do. So, like I said, like, share, subscribe, definitely leave a comment. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been an awesome year. We got a couple more weeks to go. Like I said, if I can be of any help, definitely reach out. So until next time, guys, happy investing. Peace.
These my dollars make it hurt.